over to you for the climate chat.
Absolutely. All right, good morning, and thank you for staying with us on the Weekend Show. You're now watching the Climate Chat segment of the Weekend Show, where we get to have conversations around how climate change is widening the gap of inequality in Nigeria and beyond. My guest this morning is going to do justice to a little bit of, focusing on clean energy and tech. But before then, I would like you to understand that fossil fuel, makes up about 90% of Nigeria's earnings from forex and also contributes hugely to the GDP. Nigeria has one of the largest deposits of fossil fuel in the world. But this also has huge implications in terms of how it affects the climate, in terms of being able to ensure that we're using clean energy and a lot of other things. I mean, even with the fact that we are now having problems we continue to have problems with electricity after several years, there is a need to review our approach, our sources of energy, the technology that we are innovating, and all of those things. These are conversations I'll be having this morning with my guest. My guest is Dusun Takor. Good morning, Dusun. Yes, and she is the Senior Programs Officer at Clean Tech Hub, and she'll be joining us this morning to have that conversation about Nigeria's use of energy, why we need clean tech, and also the importance of that conversation for the wider climate change conversation. So let's, just get right into it, Dusun. My biggest concern in us having this conversation is that there's a huge lack of public awareness, right? Many people do not even know how important is energy when you talk about climate change. Is energy even relevant to the climate change conversation?
I mean, I think that they work hand in hand, right? I think that energy cannot be mutually exclusive from climate change. We need energy for everything, to live, to produce, to even have a stable source of livelihood, right? We need energy in manufacturing, we need energy in everything that we do, and we are now beginning to see that, climate change is a huge factor in producing it, in sustaining it, or even living it, or even, just being. And yes, when you say lack of awareness, I think I'll even go back down to saying that there's a huge lack of awareness in terms of climate. And people used to think that, one could work without the other. And now we're beginning to see that, climate change, first of all, is real. And if we don't take care of that, then this energy that we think just comes from nowhere would suddenly start depleting, as it is already.
Yeah. One thing I think people need to walk away with from what you have said is the fact that energy contributes to carbon footprints, right? Which then leads to huge climate change complications.
Exactly.
But then let's come back to the solutions, because that's what I'm all about. We keep talking about the problem every other day, but what can we do about it? And that's why I want you to, take a minute and talk to us this morning, really, about the work you're doing at Clean Tech Hub in terms of reaching out to communities, reaching out to the various groups, particularly women, and their contribution to a more clean society, from how we generate our energy to how we use it and also innovate for technology.
And I'm very glad that you brought that up, because, so Clean Technology Hub, first of all, management team is fully women. It's, yes. And we have, our workforce is actually about 80%, 20%, 80% being female and then 20% being male. So we're really into, helping women to see how they can transition as well and not be left alone. We have talked about climate justice and how,
Absolutely.
Yes, we have talked about climate justice and how, we believe that because people are affected by this, then the solutions should actually be fair, equitable to everyone, and not just people who are the least affected by it. And we see that women are the ones that are most affected by climate change. My grandmom had, inhaling firewood smoke. And, we keep talking about how if the smoke is not in the food, we would not enjoy it so much and all that. But then we're not cutting down trees and then deforestation, and then, it's not helping at all. So what we are doing in Clean Tech Hub is that we have put together lots of projects, a lot of projects, and we're going towards just mostly women. Right? So last year we had this big plastic pollution campaign where we tried to teach women how to, so in circular economy, I'll try and break it down as much as I can.
Right?
Yeah, so what we're just doing is turning plastic into wealth. So they use plastics and make all kinds of furniture or whatever it is that they can sell. right? So they pick leather bags and all that, and then they make very fine ornaments with that. Now, what we're doing presently at the moment is that we're trying to create what is called the microcredit scheme for women. We recently got a grant from the 2X Global team. We recently got a grant, and so what that grant is going to do is that we have started running a program, an accelerator or an incubator program, where we got about 80 women to come in who have preferred solutions in climate space, and we specifically said the climate, right? And then so we want them to come, go through a course for about 8 weeks or so, and then after that they get to pitch their idea or their business. And then we give them money, and the money ranges from 1,000 to about
I mean, before we
$10,000.
come back to the amount of money you're going to give to them, I know that many people are watching right now, and, they're wondering, I'm a young girl or I'm a woman, and I'm interested in contributing to the solutions, in getting a more climate-just society. What can I do? Where do I start from? Where do I go? What needs to be done by women? Because we often look at women as just vulnerable, as the victims, but I do think that women are more. They can contribute to the solution. They can play a significant role in the decision-making process. So where do women need to start from?
I think that the first thing is that you recognize the problem, and you know that this problem is affecting you. And definitely you would have ways to kind of innovate whatever solution there is for this kind of thing. So what I would say is that, there is knowledge out there. But then there's also our organization, right? And then it's headed by Ifeoma Malu, who is one of the pioneers in energy sector and is a woman. And so I feel that, we try as much as possible to create awareness. We also try as much as possible to go to events, organize events where we go into communities, because sometimes, especially communities, last mile communities, these women don't even have a voice. So we go to those communities, and then we try to see how we can educate them on cleaner ways, on better ways in which they can transition themselves. Because if you leave them, they would actually just think that everything is normal, right? Nobody is trying to explain the floods. Nobody is trying to explain the heat. I mean, it's been the hottest this year, according to what the data that has been...
we don't even need data because we can feel the heat ourselves.
It's really hot, and if we don't wake up to the reality of it, and I want to just say something very quickly. You talked about how Nigeria has this large deposit of fossil fuel. I get the complaint all the time that other developed countries used fossil fuel to get to where they are, and so why is it suddenly when it is our turn? Everybody is now saying, no, let's transition to green. But I tell you what, whether we like it or not, it's going to happen. We are bearing the burdens of this climate change effects that these other countries have,
That fossil fuel, issue just mentioned is something very important, because I was part of a conversation where former Vice President Yemi Osinbajo spoke yesterday, and he made it clear that if Nigeria and the rest of Africa is to use fossil fuel to develop the way the other countries have, will be contributing about 9 gigatons yearly to carbon footprints. And that's a problem. So we are making a huge sacrifice, right? Which then comes about how we need money to then, ensure that we make a clean and just energy transition. And, but that's another conversation. On a final note, really, I would like you to just help us highlight how important it is for women, to be a part of the climate change conversation.
It goes down to economy.
Bearing down on your experiences in these communities.
It goes down to economy, right? Everybody wants to have a better source of livelihood. Everybody wants to live well, Climate change is also, it has its own effects in health as well. I think that if you can empower women, right, then the economy will thrive. And the only way that you can empower women is to start looking for innovative ways of which they can do their businesses. Because we're all trying to transition now. So what are the models? What are the examples? What are the solutions that will help to sustain livelihood and even the planet as a whole? So
all right. Let's leave it there, Luson Takor. We definitely would have you back. But that's been quite an interesting conversation. Thank you for being on the show this morning.
Thank you.
All right, you've heard it yourself. Clean tech, clean energy. We need women to be a part of this conversation. But that's how much we can take for today's episode of the Climate Chat. I'll be back next week. In the meantime, I have the beautiful Aisha B right here with me in the studio.